24 November 1971. A man boards a plane. He carries a briefcase. Inside it, there are no documents, no books. There is a plan, a bomb, and the seed of one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in American history. He bought a one-way ticket, and that was exactly what he intended to do: disappear. This is the story of a man who challenged the system, committed the almost perfect crime, and then simply evaporated into the night sky. He is known as D.B. Cooper, but that is not the most important clue. The question that remains is, how did he do it? And even more terrifying, where did he go? On that afternoon, a man in a dark suit and black tie boarded Northwest Orient Airlines Flight 305 to Seattle. He looked ordinary, a businessman perhaps. He sat in seat 18C, ordered a whiskey, and then he handed a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. She thought it was a phone number, a flirt, but when she opened the note, the words made her blood run cold. "I have a bomb in my briefcase. I'm going to use it." If you are fascinated by stories that defy logic and by mysteries that stay in the shadows, you're in the right place. Hit play and don't let go, because from now on, nothing is what it seems. The man identified himself as Dan Cooper. The FBI acted fast. In Seattle, the plane was surrounded. Cooper released the passengers and most of the crew, but kept 4 hostages on board. His demands were clear: $200,000 in unsequenced bills, a fortune at the time, and 4 parachutes. The parachutes were the key: to main, to reserve. A gesture investigators interpreted as a sign that he cared about his own safety. Or was it a bluff? The plane took off again, now heading to Mexico. But Cooper had no intention of getting there. Somewhere over the dense, dark forests of Washington state, on a rainy night with cutting winds, he did the impossible. He tied the bag of money to his body, strapped on the parachute, and he opened the Boeing 727's rear stairway. The cabin was flooded by an icy vacuum, and then Dan Cooper stepped into the darkness, a jump into the unknown. What followed was the biggest manhunt in FBI history. Thousands of hours of investigation, hundreds of suspects, and 0 answers. The first major contradiction appears here. Witnesses described Cooper as a calm, middle-aged man of ordinary appearance, but under the stress of the moment, details become blurry. The flight attendant described him as having brown eyes. A passenger swore they were blue. This is the first broken piece of the puzzle. We don't have a clear image of the face of the man who vanished. And then came the question of the jump. Skydiving experts are skeptical. He jumped with a reserve parachute on a stormy night, wearing a suit and dress shoes. The chances of survival were minimal. Did he crash into the trees, freeze to death? Or was Dan Cooper an experienced parachutist, a master of disappearing who calculated every move? The FBI never knew for sure. Years passed. The case grew cold, until in 1980, an 8-year-old boy playing on the banks of the Columbia River made a macabre discovery. He found 3 bundles of $20 bills, soaked and decayed. They were part of the ransom. The serial numbers matched. It was the first and only physical evidence directly linked to the crime. But instead of solving the mystery, the discovery made it even deeper. Why was only a small portion of the money found? Did the rest sink to the bottom of the river? Did Cooper survive but lose most of the money during the fall? Or was this a planted clue? Someone, somewhere, was still out there watching and decided to send a signal. The money's location didn't lead to Cooper. It led to an even darker dead end. The D.B. Cooper case was officially closed by the FBI in 2016. They had hundreds of suspects, but no concrete evidence to arrest anyone. Dan Cooper became a ghost, a myth, the person who committed the perfect air hijacking and then became one with the darkness. But what if he survived? What if he lived an ordinary life in some small town, knowing he was the only man who managed to fool the entire world? The truth is that somewhere beneath the soil of those impenetrable forests of the American Northwest may lie not only the rest of the money, but also the bones of the man who became a legend. Or perhaps nothing is buried at all, and the answer is staring at us from inside a faded composite sketch, waiting to be decoded. This story is based on FBI files and reports from the time. Some parts remain disputed and wrapped in speculation. And you, what do you think? Was Dan Cooper a criminal genius or a lucky man who met a tragic end? Did he survive and live to tell the story in secret? Share your theories in the comments. What's your version of the man who disappeared into the sky?